Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is jungle monsters. And first I'm going to show you what each of them is. This here, these two guys, these are the Krugs. And what they spawn into smaller minions. Every time you kill one of them, they spawn into two smaller ones. As you can see. This here is the red brambleback, or red buff, as people will call it. He'll give you a buff when you kill him. You obviously won't be able to use smite that fast. I'm using cheats. I'm using the training mode. And he gives you the Crest of Cinders, which basically gives you health regeneration when you're not in combat, and it also gives you a true damage burn and slow on your auto attack. The basic attacks burn and slow the target over several seconds. This camp is the Raptor camp. This is probably the most damaging camp that you'll experience. This one's pretty hard to beat on some champions, but it also gives you the most experience, and it's probably one of the more valuable camps on the map. And we're going to pass up the rest of those. This here is the wolves. As you can see, they look like wolves. One of the easier camps to beat. Not a whole lot of gold, not a whole lot of experience, but a camp nonetheless. This here is the blue sentinel. If you kill him, you also get a buff. Once again, you're not going to be able to smite this fast. I'm using cheats. And he gives you the Crest of Insight. This unit has greatly increased mana and energy regeneration and 10% cooldown reduction. So if you're running low on resources or if you're going to be spamming your abilities, it's a good buff to have. This guy here is the Gromp. He's pretty easy to kill. Single target. This here is the Rift Scuttler. If you kill him, he puts a buff on the map. He doesn't give you a buff, but he does put a buff on the map for you. And this is what it does. If you see my movement speed right now, actually you can't see it, but it's 300 and something. I can't see it through my taskbar. But now it's 400 and something. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but you do get a movement speed buff. As you can see, I've got like shadows behind me indicating a movement speed buff or whatever. And if the enemy crosses this little circle, you also get vision of them. So it grants you vision, and it grants you a movement speed buff. This guy here, he's the Rift Herald. He's pretty hard to kill. I wouldn't recommend trying to kill him by yourself. Once again, you're not going to be able to smite this fast in a real game. And if you saw, he dropped a little thing and I picked it up. And it gives you Eye of the Herald. The passive gives you an empowered recall, which I'll show you in a second. And the active component of it gives you channel for 3.5 seconds to crush the Eye of the Herald, summoning the Rift Herald to siege enemy turrets. And it basically gives you a siege engine guy that travels down the closest lane and just attacks whatever turrets are closest to it. This guy is Baron Nashor. We'll talk about him in a second. And I'm going to use the teleport function of the training utility to go down to Dragon here to avoid the walk. And this here is Dragon. And there's a bunch of different kinds of dragons. And I'll show you what they all do here in just a second. Okay. So when you kill any dragon, you get the Dragon Slayer buff. And slaying drakes grants buffs based on the type of drake. So as you can see, there's an infernal drake, a mountain drake, a cloud drake, and an ocean drake. And they spawn randomly, and only 3 of any one kind can spawn in one game, and they're completely randomly generated. There's no telling what kind of drake is going to spawn next. It's completely random. There's nothing you can do to influence this at all. So Infernal Drakes, as you can see here, they give you attack damage and ability power. Mountain Drakes give you damage to epic monsters and towers as true damage. Cloud Drakes give you out of combat movement speed, and Ocean Drakes restore a percentage of your missing health and mana per 5 seconds if you're not damaged by a champion within 8 seconds. So basically it's out of combat health and mana regeneration. And as you can see, there's 3 numbers for each of these. There's 8, 16, and 24 for the Infernal Drake, 10, 20, 30, and so on and so forth. What that means is for each one of these drakes you kill, the buff stacks. And so if you kill 2 Infernal Drakes, you get 16% additional attack damage and ability power. Or if you kill 3 of them, you'll get 24% attack damage and ability power. And the same can be said for any of these. Cloud Drake is 25, 50, 75 out of combat movement speed. The Ocean Drake restores 4, 8, 12% of your missing health and mana, and so on and so forth. They all stack. And like I said, you can only have 3 of any specific kind of dragon. And so let's go up to Baron and explain what he does. We'll use the teleport function again. This is Baron Nashor. I would not recommend trying to fight this guy unless you've got your entire team with you and you guys are all pretty high leveled and pretty high itemization, like 4, 5, 6 items. This guy is very difficult to kill. And I'm actually going to use the cheat here to level myself up, just so I might have a chance to beat this guy. I'm also going to make sure that I've got infinite HP and infinite mana, because otherwise this guy just kicked my ass. So I'm going to beat this guy up real quick, just to show you what he does. Alright, so now I have the Hand of Baron. This unit has the favor of Baron Nashor and has the following bonuses. I get an empowered recall, I get increased attack damage and ability power, and nearby allied minions are vastly enhanced. Now I'm going to do a 2-for-1 here, and I'm going to show you what the Rift Herald does, and I'm also going to show you what Baron Nashor does. So I'm going to teleport back to base here. I'm going to use my Rift Herald right now. This is what Rift Herald does. It spawns me a Rift Herald. He's going to travel up the closest lane and siege towers and minions for me. I'm also going to turn minions on. And as you can see, the minions right now, there's no buff on them. They just look like normal minions. There's nothing really special about them. But if I get near them with my Baron buff, all of a sudden they get buffed. They move faster, they're stronger, they get more range, they get more damage. Everything about them is enhanced. And you'll see between this guy and these guys, once I have both of them, I'm just going to ruin turrets. So first and foremost, I'll show you what the Rift Herald does. Once I clear all these minions and he's done messing with them, he's going to go straight for that turret right there. This is what the Rift Herald does. He's going to stop and he's going to charge. Boom! He does damage to the turrets based on how much health he currently has. So if you remember how much damage he did to that turret, you'll notice on the next turret he does significantly less damage. So he's about, I don't know, 60% health. You'll notice on this turret he does a lot less damage. That's not nearly as much as he did to the tower before that. So that's what Rift Herald does. You'll also notice that my siege minion here has significantly increased range. He's well outside of the turret range. And all these guys, they're all purple and glowy, and they're hurting the tower a hell of a lot more than they normally would. And that's what Baron buff does. That's what Baron Nashor does for you. So I'm going to toggle my minion spawn here. Actually, I'm going to wait until Rift Herald dies because I don't want to glitch out the game. Okay. And that's all you need to know about jungle monsters and what the jungle monsters do. The other thing that I want to point out as far as the jungle is what the jungle plants do. So here's a couple examples of what jungle plants are. This here is a blast cone. And what it does is, no matter what, you see this little red circle here? Wherever I am in relation to this blast cone, it's going to knock me away in the opposite direction of the direction I hit it from. So if I hit it from this side, it's going to knock me over here. If I hit it from this side, it's going to knock me over here. If I hit it from the top, it's going to knock me over there, and so on and so forth. And what you would use this for is to avoid wards. So say the enemy had a ward right there, and you needed to get up to the top lane. You could use the blast cone to bypass that ward, because it knocked me right into the bush, so I'm invisible right now. And that's just one use for the blast cone. But that's what the blast cone does. The other thing is a honey fruit. You'll see these in the corners of the river, so like here or down here. You also see them on like the opposite corner of the river. And what it does is, if I hit it, it's going to give me a bunch of fruits that restore my health and restore my mana. But they also slow me down. You'll see me moving, I'm moving. If I grab one of these, it slows me down, but only briefly. It's not that big of a deal. I wouldn't worry about the slow too much. The big thing is, it restores my health and my mana. And the last kind of plant is the Scryer's Bloom. And that's these things right here. Whatever direction I hit this bloom from, it's going to spawn a field of vision for me in the opposite direction. So I can see everything in the direction that I hit the Scryer's Bloom. And they spawn here, 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 and I believe here. Whoops, here. And so those are the jungle plants. And as far as jungling and jungle monsters and jungle plants, that's pretty much all you need to know.